And so it's very important to understand that there's no extensibility here. So like if NVIDIA continues to drive this quickly and continues to execute like this, it's a one and done, one company monopoly in AI at the hardware layer. And I think that people are probably thinking about how to blunt that competitive outcome. But that's what I took away from that announcement from them, which is like they are ready to go for the jugular here in what looks like the most important market that's emerged in like
what
the last
do you think
decade.
about the valuation, Chamath, trading at 200 times or 50 times EBITDA or whatever it's
I'm in
at?
your camp. The simple thing about price to equity ratios is if you take the price equity ratio and you invert it, that's your implied yield.
Price to earnings,
sorry. And you invert it, that's your yield, right? And so NVIDIA is yielding at these prices, I think it's somewhere like 2 to 2.5%, which is less than, and it's almost half of a typical 2-year bond. And so when you have a yield that's low, you have to see it just grow absolutely massively. But there's this principle in capitalism, which is in order to grow like that, you're generating so much profit that competitors look at it and say, hold on, you don't deserve that much profit. I'm going to take some of that.
Your profit's my opportunity. Your margin's my opportunity.
I think the your margin is my opportunity is exactly what happens. So I think what I'm waiting for, Friedberg, is like in the next 2 quarters, if AMD, Facebook, Google,
Intel,
Microsoft, and Amazon don't announce something substantive, there's a very good chance that NVIDIA runs away with this. And I think that's very problematic. But in that case, that price is cheap. My bet, though, and it's a different version of your bet, but we get to the same outcome, is that I don't think that's going to happen because it's just too important. And so I think that everybody other than NVIDIA wants vendor diversity, right? You don't want to get locked into one person, one set of hardware,
great, yeah. Or one cloud provider.
One SDK. You don't want that. Nobody wants that except NVIDIA and NVIDIA shareholders. So my bet is in the next 2 quarters, you start to see some real action so that folks start to have to balance their forecasts where it's not just 100% NVIDIA, but it's NVIDIA plus, plus, plus. And that's sort of what I would bet because it just seems like logical and right. Because I otherwise it would be pretty derelict of these hyperscalers to just throw their hands in the air and just give the whole market to them. And it would be derelict of AMD.
The other thing that's happening is,
and AMD is a great memory solution, but they really don't have a deterministic AI chip. And I think that Lisa Su needs to act decisively here and build something, announce something, buy something, but she needs to be really aggressive here.
After listening to Chamath's NVIDIA take from June 2nd, 2023, yes, you heard correctly. I repeat, June 2nd, 2023, it is obvious that you must have a position in NVIDIA in August 2024. All our lives are going to change in dramatic fashion. Nobody knows where this transformation will lead us to, but we know, now thanks to Chamath, what company has an organically developed monopoly and sits in the middle of AI. His predictions about the future became true. Today, his warnings for the hyperscalers are even more relevant. The hyperscalers, the Mag 7, the untouchables of the last decade, have to beg NVIDIA for the latest chips. And just this week, AMD bought ZT Systems for $4.9 billion. But it is not 2 quarters later, but 5. Even if NVIDIA stumbles next week on its earnings release, you have to buy more, much more NVIDIA shares. After you bought NVIDIA shares, you have to ask yourself, how long do I hold? Let's listen to Dan Ives' take.
A lot riding on this report. You have a new note out. Let's just start with this. I'm just looking at the estimates. These are the estimates. Revenue growth of 112%, EPS growth of 125%. Just astronomical. It's like I had you shaking your head, and you're one of the biggest fans of this company. Can this company meet these expectations? Can it even exceed them? Is just meeting them good enough for investors?
Well, medium's not good enough, but I believe this is going to be a drop the mic moment for the godfather of AI, Jensen NVIDIA, because all of our checks are showing this is accelerating. And I think the street, like you said, every quarter, prove it. This revolution is just starting, but it all starts with NVIDIA. In my opinion, it is the most important earnings, not just of the year, potentially in many years because of what this represents in terms of tech.
So I've been asking a lot of people this. Is it the earnings that matter or the guidance? Because the expectations are lofty. Let's say they meet or beat when it comes to revenue and EPS, but the guidance isn't what people are expecting. What does that do to the stock? What do you think it does to the market?
It's all about the guidance. But all, I mean, we just got back from Asia. All of our checks are showing Street is still underestimating this acceleration. Because right now, the only game in town is Jensen. And really, if you look what NVIDIA is doing, especially from chips coming forward, this enterprise demand is just starting. And in my opinion, of course, Powell, Jackson Hole is so important.
Huge, obviously.
But the market, what it's going to do for the rest of the year, and I could argue even into 2025, it starts with this NVIDIA earnings. And I expect, get the popcorn ready. It's going to be a
You say this every quarter, Dan.
No, but this is going to be a showstopper showing where the revolution's going.
Okay.
And I think the skeptics continue to get proven wrong.
What about the questions? The air pocket between different iterations of their chips, some of their customers making their own chips, and the fact that the AI enthusiasm seems to be dying down. You're not concerned about any of that?
Yeah, so it's hit on them. For a delayed 2 to 3 months, I view that as sort of an asterisk. In other words, this is not moving the needle in terms of from a demand perspective. When you talk about AI in terms of some of the hype, look what we saw from the hyperscalers. Amazon, Google, Microsoft, what Nadella talked about, what Lisa Su and AMD, the Messi of AI, Palantir in terms of the use cases. It's showing that now the second, third, fourth derivatives are just starting to play out. So when I look at what the godfather of AI, Jensen and NVIDIA are doing, we're talking about transformation. I believe a year from now, this is a $4 trillion market cap along with Apple and Microsoft.
By the way, you changing his last name. It's Jensen NVIDIA. It's not Jensen Huang anymore. You just decided?
Look, you're
making decisions. I want to get back to your note. According to your research, for every dollar spent on NVIDIA chips, it kind of flows through to the rest of the tech sector to $8 to $10. What does that mean for some of these other stocks?
That's the most important thing. Because remember, it's not just about NVIDIA. It's about the multiplier. It's about the revolution, the $1 trillion of CapEx. For every dollar spent on an NVIDIA chip, there's an 8 to 10 multiplier across the rest of tech. That's why it's so important in terms of what NVIDIA says for this bull market to continue.
So you're saying it's a broad tailwind. It's not just it's a rising tide that's going to lift all boats.
Because it's not just
even in software, because software seems to be under pressure, or at least it was when it comes to this AI craze, and it seems like a lot of the money that was going to software has gone to chips.
But even next week, you'll hear from Benioff and Salesforce. What are they focused on? AI. Look at McDermott and ServiceNow. In other words, it's just starting now. The software wave is a second, third derivative. That's why I think we're sitting here a year from now, NASDAQ 20,000, and it continues because now the rest of this party, it is only 9 p.m. in the AI party
that goes to
that
when?
We believe it goes to 4 a.m.
To 4? Not to sunrise, but it stops at 4.
4 a.m. And look, will there be times music stops and there's glass in the food? Yeah. But right now, what we hear next week, it shows this party, the music continues to play on.
If you liked today's video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.